again.
Oh my God, we're back again. Yes, hello everyone. We are here once again for another episode of A Conversation with Kelly. We said that we would be back literally in like an hour, and here we are, like an hour later.
We just somewhere.
Yeah, we just talked about Big Brother 25. If you want to hear our thoughts on the last week, you can watch that podcast. Oh my God, I'm just realizing I still have the background up for Big Brother 25, and that proves it right there. Like if you didn't believe us that like we filmed it like back to back, there's your proof right there. Anyway. Yes, we're getting on the right track here for sure. But anyway, I am here with my lovely, beautiful co-host, Allie. How are you doing once again?
I'm doing well. So we just finished a film.
Yeah, it's boring.
It wasn't very good.
Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, not good at all. Yeah, don't recommend it. Yeah. Yes, that was a good cake. We do recommend the cake. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I'm leaving tomorrow, unfortunately, which is very sad. I don't want to leave, but you know, it is what it is. But other than that, I don't have too much else going on. Got some more packing to do and things like that. So anyway, we're here to talk about this week's episode of Survivor 45. Now, if you don't know, the last episode we did a live react for, and a lot of people seem to be very like divided on that premiere. Some people really liked it.
They do, yeah.
Others seem to be like this is like the most pathetic group of people I've ever seen in Survivor. I don't understand why anyone would ever have any struggles. I personally found it to be a very strong premiere. I feel like it brought out a lot from so many people. Yes, Lulu is a mess, but honestly, that's what kind of endears you to Lulu, that they are such a mess. So I was very excited to see how this episode would go. And I got to say, I really think these 90-minute episodes are paying off, and they're doing what I was hoping they would do. We're getting a lot more strategy. We're getting a lot more content from so many different players. And I feel like especially this episode, there's no one that we don't at least know something about.
Yeah. This is like such a good episode. Like we really got to know more about people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think some people don't know
but they at least have something. Yeah, like I feel like if this was a 40-minute episode, there's stuff we get in this episode that would not have been included. And because of the fact that it was like a 40-minute episode, that it was like a 90-minute episode, we were able to get a lot more with a lot of these players. And I'm very excited to get into all of that. So you know, if you don't know, if you haven't watched our Survivor Reads before, we like to do it tribe by tribe. So I'll talk about Lulu. Allie will talk about...
This is all stuff that happened before tribe.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, tribal.
Before the immunity challenge. Yeah. I'll talk about Lulu. You'll talk about Reba. And then I will talk about Bello and, you know, so on and so forth. So we'll start off here with easily the most, I think probably the most prominent tribe in this episode, which is the Lulu Tribe, which continues to be like one of the most insane groups of people I've seen in a very long time. But we start off here, and after Hannah's quit, everyone's shocked, obviously, because they didn't expect for her to do that. Now, I will say, we were kind of harsh on her when she did initially quit. I do understand her reasoning more now. I think, you know, her whole thing was that she didn't want to take a spot away from like other people who were in the game. She did want to play, but she kind of recognized that it wasn't for her. Yeah. And so she didn't want to be one of those people that like sticks it out knowing that she didn't want to be there. And I honestly respect her for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I really do respect the fact that, like, she recognized that, like, this isn't for me. And now she's just moving on with her life. It doesn't mean she's not going to try it again at some point, but where she is right now, it wasn't working for her. And we also have to keep in mind, this tribe does not have a fire. This tribe does not have any sort of supplies. So it makes sense why they're all just kind of losing their minds, because I feel like those things are kind of essential, and they don't have them. So... After Hannah's quit, everyone's shocked and bummed that she's gone. Sean says that he knew that she was having struggles, but not to that extent. And part of him can see why she was so adamant on quitting, because he's also feeling like a Lululemon, and they're going through the ringer, especially for the fact that they have yet to go get their machete in Flint for a few days and are still without it. Fire is literal life out there. And then we get right into it with Emily. And I will say, I liked Emily a little bit more in this episode.
She's my favorite
No.
still, but
Yeah.
like from this episode, because at least she's like trying to like prove her wrongs and stuff.
Yeah, we're finding a more. Yeah. So at first though, I will say she was insufferable. The first like 20, 40 minutes of this episode, not a fan. Because she goes on, says like it sounds like she's attacking them, and that's not what her intention was, but it's been hard to make inroads with people. And Sabiyah says it doesn't necessarily, give her the right to point guns at her. Kaleb says that she was kind of offended, constantly raking them over the coals like they have a secret alliance. And Emily says that she's kind of being gaslit because they're coming for her, and that's how she felt, even though she was the one coming for them. But okay, sure, they're gaslighting you. And Sabiyah says that she kind of sees herself in a way, and it makes it hard for the rest of them to get to know her because she's so adamant on being someone that's not liked. And I'll just say right now, Sabiyah is speaking like all the truths in this episode. Like, stan Sabiyah. Yeah, she definitely is playing much differently than I thought she would, and I'm very much here for it. She's very much in like this power position where she's the one like really just kind of calling out Emily for what she should be. And I like the way she's handling it so far. So Emily says her game blew up tonight for sure, and she doesn't even know where to begin. She definitely knew her name was on the chopping block, and her thought process was to point out how close Kaleb, Sabiyah, and Sean were, and she didn't expect Sabiyah to react the way she did, taking it very personally, even though she's literally targeting all the POCs, but she can't see that for some reason. Yeah. So Emily asks Sabiyah if her apologizing for it will make her feel better. Sabiyah says she can't help but how she feels, just like she can't help how she says things, and Emily says she has to understand it was do or die for her. She had a choice to make and wanted to stay in this game, and she was just trying to do something better with that situation. And Sabiyah says that she knows how she feels, and she'll continue to feel the way that she feels. And I don't blame Sabiyah for changing that at all, like wanting to and Sabiyah says that she's sad that Hannah quit and now they're all stuck with Emily, and she doesn't like that she is as aware of herself and how she comes across. And yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't blame her because like the worst first impression, honestly, like I can't think of a worser first impression than just being like, oh, these two are working together, we got to target them. Like, yeah, it was bad. It was bad all around. So after Sabiyah leaves, Emily asks the rest of the tribe if she wants to be alone. Brandon says probably, and if she wants to be Emily, there's no way she can work with her, and she doesn't mesh well with the group. She's bad news, and she knows it, and Sabiyah says that she feels Emily is blaming all of them at them not trying to change her behavior at all. She's having a really tough time with Emily. She tells her that it matters what she says to people, and she doesn't care if she means it or not. Tact is a thing. And then we get the return of something that I'm very happy about. We got the return of the intro in this episode. And as someone who is not, as someone who hasn't seen a Survivor season that has an intro, it makes all the difference. It just feels so much more complete. It feels like, it's not just that. It just feels more like eventful. It feels more like we're watching like a full season. And I just feel like without the intro, it just feels like something's missing. So yeah, it's really cool to have the intro back. I like the way they did it, and I hope moving forward, this is honestly what they continue to do. Give us 90-minute episodes moving forward, and give us the intro moving forward, because I think they're both paying off in dividends. So yeah, so after we get this whole thing between Sabiyah and Emily, we see Emily says she didn't realize that she was so sensitive. Emily is searching for idols, and she feels like her game is do or die right now. She can't do nothing and do something to make herself feel better, and she needs to do so without making her look suspicious. This episode's very Emily heavy.
Like, I don't know. With her big edit, I don't see her going that far.
I don't know. I feel like
it gives me like merge boot vibes.
Well, the thing that I will say is she has going for her is that apparently I heard this apparently she leaked somewhere that like she did really well on the season. Like she was very happy how she performed. But I don't know if she's talking about her placement or if she's just like talking more about like how like what she learned or like the experience itself. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, because it's like I said, Emily is definitely like one of the main characters of this episode. I could see that. I could see that. Yeah. Or in the Sydney. So meanwhile, the rest of the tribe is discussing how they need a search in terms of keeping an eye on her. And she's basically the social pariah at this point. Everyone wants nothing to do with her. They're all kind of coming for her. And Brandon says that Emily is desperate and is looking for the idol. And she is now public enemy number 1, which she has absolutely done to herself. And they're all running around like chickens with their heads cut off, searching for Emily. But really, he would love to go find that idol and knows how to do so as he's watched people do it. And he wants to make sure that she doesn't get it. So Sabiyah then finds Emily and says that everyone is splitting up. It's the 2 of them and the boys are gone. And this was her way of including her. And she says that she can read between the lines. They don't just want her to find the idol independently and says she's happy to scramble and she'd much rather do it alone. And Sabiyah says it's her prerogative. And this was so frustrating because Sabiyah's like, I feel like trying to be like an ally to her right now. Like she's like, listen, I don't want us to fight. I want us to move forward. I want us to look for this together. And Emily's like, no. You guys just don't want me to find the idol at all. Like that's your fault.
It's like so bad.
Like what's so annoying about Emily, at least for the first like half of this episode, is that she's so unaware that everything that she's worried about, she did to herself. She did not have to come into the game having this very like pessimistic, negative attitude, automatically targeting people, being this like game bot of sorts. Like if she would have just come in just a little bit more like positive and a little bit more optimistic and willing to talk to people more, I think she'd be in a much different position right now. But she can't recognize that. And that's what's so frustrating, is that she's not self-aware at all. And that's why people are saying, oh, Emily's iconic. I just can't get behind it because she's not self-aware. Like she lacks it. And it's just, I can't stand players like that. So, yeah. So Emily says it was obvious for them to say to pair up with Sabiyah so they can look together. So she had to speak, but that probably put a bad taste in the tribe's mouth, but feels that they already do so. So she has very little to lose. There's a scramble right now. They're all looking for idols and she'd prefer to search on her own. But the problem is everyone is not leaving her alone and she's doing everything in her power to separate. And if she doesn't find the idol and someone else finds out, she's 100% the person voted out. If they go to tribal, again, she's not doing anything to improve her positioning right now. But Sabiyah and Brandon are looking for the idol, and Brandon ends up finding it in a tree, and they both start freaking out. And I thought this was a really great moment for Brandon. I was like, oh my God, he's got the idol. Like, he's going to be in a really good spot now. Because I think it's, fair to say he had a really rough first episode. Yeah. Probably one of the worst first episodes for anyone in like a long time. And it did seem like this was going to turn things around, but he opens it up. But at first, he doesn't want to know because he knows his vote's going to be taken away. He asks her if she wants to, and she says that she'll be helping. And do you think this was the right move for him to not open the Beware advantage?
Spoilers from what happens, kind of.
Yeah, I feel like him not doing this was like a big deal, like much bigger than he honestly thought it was, because I think if he had opened it, he could have potentially found something. It would have been better for him to do so. And we've seen instances like this before on Survivor, like people don't want to open it, but then are usually, they usually like the possibility of opening it just ends up overriding everything and they open it. This was the first time I think we saw someone straight up be like, I don't want to open this. I know what's going to happen. And he doesn't open it. Sabiyah opens it instead. And she reads about the series of tasks she will have to perform in order to vote a tribal council. Her first task is to take this note and lay it over the map of her tribe camp, and the whole will reveal their next clue. Sabiyah says she's here to play and is excited to have the Beware advantage. And I love Sabiyah so far. I think that honestly, she is kind of controlling the tribe right now, and I'm very much here for it. And I feel like she's making it very far.
Yeah, I could see her even getting to the end.
Yeah, I honestly could too. So she takes the note, lays it over the map, and there's a tree right there, and notices how well it aligns with a tree they both saw earlier. They go towards it and they end up finding the tree. She gets on his back and starts climbing, but can't seem to find anything that sticks out and thinks will be a scavenger hunt for a house. So it's very hard to get an idol this year. Do you like this idol system?
Sometimes. It's just it's not my favorite, but it's definitely not the worst I've seen.
I just wish they were able to vote. Like, I don't like their votes taken away. I've never understood that.
Like, votes are I wish that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, that's the only thing that, like, I like that it's harder to get an idol and it's not just like handed to them. But I don't understand why they need to have their vote taken away. Like, it just it loses a lot of momentum when there's not as many people voting and potential to like change the vote. Yeah. So she goes to Sean about it and shows Sean the note. She also tells Kayla about it, knowing it will cement a relation between the three of them going forward. They check everywhere, but to no avail. And again, I think Sabiyah, I mean, she's just kind of killing it here. Like, she now has this relationship with Brandon. She's very good with Kaleb and Sean. She's kind of put herself in this position where, like, she is, like, probably the most, like, well-insulated on her tribe. I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. So Kaleb talks to Emily, and we get a really great segment from him where, and the thing is, pre-season, I think we said that Sean was going to be this person that kind of like goes, takes Emily under his wing and kind of helps her out. But it turns out that's actually Kaleb's role in this episode. Basically, he showed that, so he says he's really starting to get Emily since she's somebody who likes to go by facts and basically, I hit something. There we go. So he says he generally wanted to work with her, and she says that she feels like she fucked it up and she wants to be here more than anything, and she knows it's hard and she's not ready to say that this is fate. And she asks him what she can do to build that trust with him, and he says that she needs to keep the strategizing lower. And I would agree. I think she's just been like a game bot this entire time, and she needs to like dial that down, because this is not a game bot he has. This is a very like social cast, I feel like. So he wants to look out for her and tells her to be helpful and positive. Sharing stories about herself might really help. He just feels like it's what the tribe really needs right now. So she says she brought a bazooka to the tea party, which is where the title of this episode comes from. And she needs to put that bazooka down. She says she wants to play with him, and she hopes that he can see her as an asset, and he's the only person that's really talked to her. And this is really good for Kaleb, I feel like. Yeah. I didn't expect him to like bond with Emily though. Yeah. I think it's definitely, I don't know. I think it's good if it's like, if Emily turns out to go farther into the game, there's someone for her to latch onto. She's not completely alone and things like that. He has another number on his side. Like, I think it's good for Kaleb that he did this, because he says he's really starting to get Emily since she's somebody that likes to go by facts and numbers. The problem with her is she has a big mouth and can't get out of her own way. People are really hating on her, but he thinks to himself, how can he help? Maybe he can nurse her back to health and nurse her as a stronger, better player. He says a bad player would continue to isolate her and continue to make sure that she knows she's on the outs and don't even try to talk to him. Whereas a good player is probably going to realize that everyone needs an ally, and Emily doesn't have anybody. And I completely agree with this. I always say you can never count anybody out, especially in Survivor. In Big Brother, you can when like someone's on the block and like, they're going, that's a little different. But like Survivor, you really can't ever count someone out until the votes are read. And so I think it's really smart that he is recruiting her here. What are you doing?
She's 28. I thought she
was.
I thought
she was too. But basically, he talked.
She was actually 28.
Yeah.
She just turned.
Right. Yeah, so he says he's the person that's being the most upfront with her, and he thinks he's making really good inroads with her, and she actually also agrees that this was a really good conversation, and he actually showed her that there's definitely a lesson for the game moving forward, but also a lesson for life. And this is where I start to like Emily more. I think this is the moment where she starts to turn things around. It doesn't completely cancel out what she did, but her acknowledging it goes a long way, I feel like. Yeah. Yeah, because basically she says she can't brute force things in life like she tried to do in this game, but it's hard for a tiger to change its stripes in some sense, so she needs to try more than she is, and now she's taking these things to heart, learning to be more calm and less aggressive. So she worries about how trying to play too hard, and so much of the issues she's had has been because of her attitude. It's so ingrained into who she is, and she's always been this nervous and anxious pessimist and a go-getter that can't know when to stop. And she starts getting emotional and says being here is just something to be proud of. And it's really nice to think about the game isn't over for her. And I will say this was like a good moment. Her kind of like having this like come to Jesus moment of sorts where she's recognizing it. So I did enjoy that. So she goes to Sabiyah. She actually apologizes to her.
The one that like to see.
Yeah, and Sabiyah says that she was being too defensive and an apology for it, and Emily says that she was being too defensive as well. So she talks to Bran about how upset she is about his hair and can't wait to eventually see it, and it's stunning. She talks to Sean about how she needs to do further insert herself into conversations and further irritating, but also doesn't want them to think she isn't even trying to talk to them, but it's a weird situation, and she doesn't even know what the right kind of thing to do is. So she starts crying in front of him and Kaleb, and I don't blame her for getting emotional here because it's a little hard to change her entire personality like that quickly. I totally understand that, but I like the fact that she's at least trying to work on it. And in 2 episodes, like that's pretty impressive. Like a lot of people wouldn't realize they're doing that for weeks on end. So honestly, good on Kaleb for kind of getting her to like recognize what she did wrong because it's
see things.
Because
like she has such a rough and then to go to this and this.
Yeah, I'm hoping she's one of those players where it's like she really wasn't likable at first, but by the end she's just very endearing and lovable, and we really end up liking her because I feel like now I'm seeing that potential. Yeah, so while talking to Brandon, they notice a boat in the distance. Then they receive tree mail that one person must get on the boat. The typical journey thing they always do. They're going to return to camp this afternoon. Brandon volunteers to go out on the journey. And Emily, once again, though, is really annoying here, saying that they're trying to prevent her from getting any advantages. The same motivation as hunting for the idol together. And this is another opportunity to change the circumstances, slipping out of her grip. This is the only thing. I feel like she needs to get over the fact that, like, they don't want anything to do with her. She needs to recognize why that is. Like, they don't want much to do with her right now. She can't really change that yet, but she has an opportunity to if she just kind of gets over it. And I think that's her biggest issue. But yeah, Brandon's going on the journey. We'll talk about the journey in a little bit, but that's everything with Lulu before the journey. We'll talk about what happens with the journey afterward and also immunity. But with that said, Allie's going to talk a bit. But like I said, Lulu still pretty cracked. A lot of crazy stuff going on there. Very Emily and Sabiyah heavy, I feel like. But we'll talk about a little bit more on what's going on with Lulu a little bit later. With that said, let's get to what is probably the tribe that I don't think is ever going to tribal. Let's talk about Reba.
Yeah, this tribe is very like level-headed. So
yeah, I feel like this tribe is like the most locked.
Oh yeah. So Sifu has said
which we get a lot more with that in this episode, which I was happy about. And I will say, their content in particular, I feel like we would not have gotten if this was a typical 40-minute episode.
Yeah, I think so. We get the bare minimum.
Yeah, we got a lot more here than I expected.
So Sifu says everything's going for Reba. They're actually a winning tribe, and it feels like a kid in a candy shop. This is the islands of Fiji, and it's amazing and the place to be. He wants to have fun for his soul, his mind, and his physical, and he's being pushed and is enjoying every bit of it. Yeah, there's not a lot of update on like if Sifu is still like the target, because there's a lot more conversations about like alliances and things like that, which we'll get into here. Yeah. So he talks to Austin, Jeremiah, and Drews about how he can fix things really hard with his hand and tries him doing so. I thought that was a funny moment. That was funny. Jeremiah says she gets that they have a really good thing going, but at the same point, they're going to lose the immunity challenge. So she just wants an advantage so desperately, and she truly believes there's a code hidden in that flag. I was glad that Jeremiah had something to do. Me too. She was like so purple. Except for like one confessional. And here I wouldn't say anyone's purpled in this episode. No. We see her going over to the themed survivor flag and trying to pick up any clues she can decipher from it. She says the first word begins with one letter, which could only hypothetically be A. And it makes sense that it's the kind of thing Survivor would do. Put a language on the flag they would all have to decode, and if they can just figure out which letter forms words, they can maybe reverse engineer the cipher. She says she's always maintained that visual puzzles are her specialty. Oh, there's an I there.
Oh.
And are her specialty. But she also could
What did I type?
I don't know. Are her
Speciality. I made up a new word.
Oh, yeah. She says she's always maintained that visual puzzles are her specialty, but she also could just be overthinking it. But this is the kind of game where overthinking is a requirement. And also, it was probably just a typo.
I couldn't tell you anything about this code, whether it's correct or not. I feel like it's definitely something where you kind of do want to overthink because it's a lot. And I like that they're changing up the idol system every season. Like they're not doing the same thing, every time. Like they did the cage last time. Now they're doing this. I kind of missed the cage, to be honest with you. I like the tension that provided. I liked how like stealthy you had to be. This is a lot more like skill based, which is different.
Oh, definitely. It's really unique.
Yeah.
So she shows Drew what she's thinking about the possible decoded message.
Kind of the star of this episode for like Reba.
Drew is amazing so far.
He's definitely not going pre-merge like we thought.
No,
I feel like
I can definitely see him going far now, as of right now. So Austin says they're all super fans and are very smart and perceptive, and everyone is looking at weird symbols trying to figure out how to crack them. They don't realize that he already has the beware advantage and also has a message here that he can use to decode the message on the flag.
Yep.
We see him finally alone at camp, so he gets up and grabs the note, put it on the symbols, and slid around trying to find anything he can match it with. And at first has no luck, but then realizes the spacing was what was important. And he's 99% sure it says dig in the fallen palm tree X. And now he has to find a fallen palm tree or an X, and finding this idol is proving to be much more difficult than he thought. And right now he has no vote, which is terrifying.
I feel like he's not going to need it though, because I don't see Reba going to Tribe like ever. I think they're so locked in. Like I don't think they're going.
Yeah. Also, this next person, Dee is the only person I kind of forget about.
Yeah, but thankfully she had stuff in this episode.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like where she's going to go. I just feel she's like such a question mark for me.
I agree.
But Dee talks to the tribe about how her big toes are way longer than her little toes, and it's abnormally longer. This was funny.
Another moment I don't think they would have shown if it was a shorter episode.
Probably. She takes her sock off to show them, and they all start laughing about it. She says they're laughing now, but won't later when she wins a balance challenge.
I thought that was funny.
That was. Sifu talks to Dee and Julie and asks if they honestly think if they were all walking down the street, that they would all be friends. And Julie says that they were her kids' friends, and Dee says it depends on the situation.
Yeah, and we get a big moment from Julie here.
Oh, yeah. Finally. Julie says...
Finally, it's 2 episodes.
I mean, because she didn't really have much in the first episode.
Yeah, no, she didn't. But I mean, the tribe as a whole, aside from Austin, didn't have like anything.
Yeah,
and Sifu. Like, that's kind of it.
True. Seafood.
Stop. That's not his name.
I know, it's just funny. Julie says she has taken on the role of Mama. She is Mama J, and she's kind of leading into that. She talks about how Dee is her closest ally, and she feels she will play a loyal game, but she has to have other alliances. She really likes Drew, and he's her son's age, and he needs a mom out here. So she needs to make him think he can get through another day because she's here.
Yeah, we haven't really seen a conversation between like Dee and Julie like solidifying anything, but I guess they're final 2. So
yeah,
there's that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that like Julie and Dee are final 2, which I'm here for it.
Oh, yeah, I am too.
And also is Mama J gonna be friends with Mama Felicia and Mom Cerise?
Maybe.
Felicia and Cerise.
We'll see.
Be iconic. So she pulls him aside and he asks her where she's standing because he wants to be 100% with her, and she says she feels she wants to have a loyal game with him and wants to have his back. And he agrees and gives her a hug. She also mentions to him how she works well with Dee, and she asks him how he feels about Austin, and he says he loves him, and she asks about pulling him in, and he says he could literally cry.
Yeah, I mean, Drew is in such a good, like a golden position right now.
I think he's in the best spot in his tribe.
I would say him and Julie.
Yeah. But like definitely him, because it seems like he's bonding with everybody.
Yeah.
So Drew says Julie wants to go with the 4 he was already planning, consisting of Austin, Dee, Julie, and himself. This is going to be the solid group, so he has a lot of allies at this point, and it's a nice feeling. There's a part of him that wants to be a king and domineer the tribe, and he has to tone it down now, but there will be a time when his realm will stretch to the whole beach, and right now he is marshaling his troops and making his feudal alliances to bring this kingdom into fruition.
Yeah, and I think it's really smart that he's kind of recognizing, like, I can't be the leader right now. I kind of have to just chill for a bit and kind of just, like, let the allies come to me, but also, like, start putting things together. Because I think they kind of recognize, like, we're good. We're not going to go to tribal for a bit, but it is good to have these things on the side. So I feel like right now, I mean, Jemiah and Sifu are kind of fucked because they're not in any sort of groups right now. So
I feel like I don't think Jemiah would.
I think Sifu would probably go.
Yeah. Sure she stays.
Yeah.
And also too, it seems like she's bonding with Austin. Too.
Yeah, we'll see.
They notice a boat in the distance where Jemiah and Drew do rock, paper, scissors to their Herman, who will be sent out on the journey, and Drew ends up going.
Yeah, so again, really good stuff from Reba. But Balo, once again, might be my favorite tribe, if I'm being honest with you. I love what we're getting from Bello. I think that they are just a very fun bunch, and we get a lot from them in this episode. For a while, I thought they were not going to have like as much, and then they really got a lot more in the second half. So let's talk about Bello here. So Bruce is given a flint. He successfully ends up making fire for his tribe, which everyone's impressed by. And Jake talks about how much easier it is with a fire and pot, which I thought was such a funny contrast, going from like Lulu, who's like suffering without a flint, to Bruce like making the flint for them. I thought it was just a really funny like edit the way they did that. But basically, he talks about how they call him Uncle Bruce because he takes care of them. He reminds him of a lot of people from Boston. We get a montage of him saying a bunch of funny stuff and sounds. And Bruce says, this is all a plan. He's putting on a smile and laugh or a giggle, but they have things that need to get done and they're working at a snail's pace. And he wants to tell them to go get it done. And once it's done, they can do what they want, but he won't do it to them like he does to his own kids. Kind of giving me Roxroy vibes in like 42 with like the way that he's like very like, this is what we got to do. We got to get it done. Like I remember Roxroy was like that in 42, but I feel like Bruce has this like really fun persona. Like he's very funny and like charismatic that Roxroy didn't have. And I feel like because of that, I think Bruce is going to go very far in this game. It's also just showing us like, this is what we were robbed of last season. Yeah. Like I'm so happy they brought him back. He's so iconic. He kills me. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't mind Jake that much so far. I feel like he's going to get on my nerves, but not yet. So Katurah, who is a big part of this episode, says that she's already like one of my favorites. She says that every 5 minutes, Bruce is explaining something and telling them how to do something. He wants to be called uncle, but he's acting like a dad. The rest of the tribe is hungry for him and eats it up and feeds his soul. She can see it through him. And then secondly, he became like a bit of a celebrity after his episode aired. Everyone keeps reminding him of it. And the most annoying thing people can do is name drop. We see him literally talking about like Kane from his season, which I thought was really funny. So she thinks he's a threat and is trying to downplay it and nobody sees it. And she feels that nobody sees it. And I'm here for this rivalry. Oh yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I think with the dynamic we get later on, yeah, I could definitely see that. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I just like, I kind of want to see them like duke it out, but I also want to see them like kind of work together because I feel like they're pretty iconic. So we get this great, so that was kind of all we got from Bello for a bit. And I thought that was all we were going to get, but then we get a little bit more with them later on. We see, and I'm going a bit out of order here just to stay like consistent with the way we're doing the notes. So Kelly, Katurah, Kendra, and Brando are jokingly putting on their buffs as shirts. I thought this was such a fun, cute moment. And Brando just like joining in and them laughing about it. And Brando says coming into this game, he was really worried that as a 22-year-old scrawny Asian guy that nobody wants to work with him. So being an alligator outside his comfort zone is really helping him. He says he's kind of killing it right now as he's never been one to bro out with the guys. He's giving me major Carson vibes from last season. I feel like he's in a very similar position where just everyone kind of trusts him and everyone like feels like he can, like, they're in a really good spot with him, and I feel like he's gonna go like very far. I don't know if he's gonna go all the way to 4, but I feel like in the same vein that like Carson was someone that like was very loyal to like his people, I feel like Brando's gonna be very loyal to his. So I don't know, I get a very similar vibe to the two of them.
Me too.
So
I really like him so far.
yeah. So Kelly, well, I haven't gotten to that yet, but yes. So Kelly and Kendra talk to Brando. They both like the idea of working with him, and he says that that's a good thing to hear. Kelly says that they love him, and Kendra says that they just want to pull him aside and say that to him. And he talks about how the weakest women always go first on tribes, and he doesn't want that to happen. And I fucking love that he said that. Like, it's just... I thought Brando was going to be someone who just like bros down with like Jake, and it does not seem like that's what he's here for at all. He's very much here for the women, and I'm here for it because I feel like those three are not turning on each other. I feel like they are one of the most like loyal in the game. And Kendra even says the girls are 3 strong. They're not going to get broken up. She'd love to work with Brando, and he sees the numbers and is a smart dude, and he knows percentages. So better to join them than be against them. And Kendra says that she wants to go far in this game with people she admires and trusts. And Kelly says the only thing she can have is trust in people, especially with Bruce and Jake at the well right now, which Brando assumes that they are talking, and they are, because we get a scene with Jake and Bruce. And we kind of get a sense of the dynamic here where they talk about it. There likely is a girls' alliance. And Bruce says he hit it on the head, saying they're going to go after the guys. And Jake says that he 100% bets it was him, which Bruce says he bets it's him. Jake says what it is, but he's a very social dude. He has the charisma of a 25-year-old. So I feel like in the way that we thought it was going to be Brando and Jake, it's going to be Jake and Bruce. And like, you got the girls and then Brando in the middle. And it seems like that's kind of what the tribe is going to be from this point forward. Yeah, so definitely watch out for Jake and Bruce, because they definitely know the girls' alliance is out there. But I feel like these are strong women. I don't think they're going to be in danger for a while. I think honestly, Jake is the one that's in danger here. But Bruce says he knows. Yeah, I mean, I think Katurah will probably target Bruce, but like she'll try to get the target on Bruce. But yeah, I feel like they kind of they see Bruce as like kind of like this, like, you know, they see Bruce as like this legend of sorts that like they just want to like get to know and things like that. Like they're kind of just like he's like this Messiah type figure to them. So it's like it's gonna be hard to take him out, I feel like. So Bruce says he knows he's 100% a target. He's had a very good idea that would be the case. So he's going to protect himself, be a social player, and talk to as many people as possible on this tribe. And we get a really good moment here where he talks to Brando, asks if he has an open line of communication with him, and he'll have the same exact with him. And Brando says that he has him. He says that he wants to team up with someone that's got what he's missing, the big muscles, and has whatever it takes. And Bruce says that he could be throwing everyone off. Bruce feels that they are great friends and he loves him. And Brando says he's going to be keeping every option open. He's got a strong alliance with the girls, but at the same time, Bruce is definitely trying to pull him in, and he feels like he's in a really good spot right now. So Brando's like very much like in the middle right now, which is not what I would have expected coming into the season. I would say so. So Bruce talks to Kelly, says Brando is on board, and she says she feels really good about him, and he says Jake is also on board, and he says that he and Kelly have hit it off from the very beginning. The 4 of them absolutely are coming together, so that beautiful word they can use is going with majority. So Kelly says...
I think Jake and Bruce were trying or Kendra.
Yeah, probably. So Kelly says in terms of working with the guys, she hates this, but there is an element of strength and challenges. And one of her strengths coming out here was that she can bro out. And this, she did say this preseason. She wants to bro out with the dudes, be besties with the girls, and her and Brando are in the middle with Bruce and Jake on one side and Kendra, Katurah on the other. She's gone back and forth with which way she wants to go. So if they lose the next immunity challenge, she's going to have a lot of fallout to deal with, and she doesn't want the hammer to come down on her. So yeah, I kind of worry for Kelly here. I feel like she is going to have to make a big sacrifice. Yeah. And I don't know how that blowback will be for her, because I feel like if she turns on the girls, like that's going to be really bad. I feel like it could be like an Ellie like scenario where it's like you had those 3. I could see that potentially happening. I think
Yeah.
that from what she's saying, like the girls are the main priority, but like if she has to go with the 4, she'll go with the 4.
Yeah.
But the girls are who she wants to like stick with. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. But she says to Bruce that she likes how low key they're keeping it. She mentions to Brando that she wants them to be solid, and he says that they're in a good spot. And that's everything we get until we get to the journey here. Jake says he has Bruce and Katurah rock, paper, scissors for it, and Bruce wins, so he gets selected to go on the journey. And Katurah is not happy about this. She doesn't want him to have access to anything that would give him any more power than he already has. Her tribe is eating out of Bruce's hand with everything he does, and he does a lot of stupid and annoying stuff, and she sees right through it, wondering who he really is. So this is kind of what I think. I think if they go to tribal right now, Katurah will try to get momentum on Bruce. She will absolutely try to push it, but she'll realize that it's not there, and I think Jake will probably go.
I can see that. I could see like maybe her.
Jake also has had like the least amount of content on the tribe, which is never good.
See like her like maybe putting a vote on Bruce, but like everyone else would, but like just in case of like an idol player or something.
Yeah, I think so too. But great stuff from Bello. Yeah, but great stuff from Bello. I honestly don't think we would have gotten most of this stuff if it wasn't for the 90-minute episode. I think stuff like Brando, for example, I don't think we would have seen that. I don't think we would have seen how Kelly and Bruce are positioned. Like, we have a really good understanding of each tribe, and that's what makes me just very happy with these 90-minute episodes so far. I feel like there's nobody right now that we know that we don't know enough about, you know? So I feel like they're giving us enough here. But anyway, those are all the tribes before the immunity challenge. Why don't we go ahead and talk about the journey here? Because it is pretty crucial in this episode.
Okay, so Brandon, Drew, and Bruce meet each other and make their way towards the beach. Drew says he wants his survivor experience to have a friend, and going on a journey is their first step in putting himself out there. This is a networking opportunity, and it's a great time to make some connections and print some cash in the future. I've
always said this about the journeys. Like, this is your opportunity to make like very close bonds with people. I always think about Owen and Noelle in 43, how like those two stuck to each other because of the journey. And I like that Drew is recognizing like, this is an opportunity for me to like get to know people that I'll eventually probably have to play with if I make it to merge or if there's a swap of some sort. I like that he is recognizing that here, and I feel like it's honestly going to take him very far.
Oh yeah, I definitely think so too.
Yeah.
And they walk over to a table where there is a message telling them they are to use the time to get to know each other because they'll never know where it will lead. And when they are finished, they must each pick a different path.
Yeah.
Drew asks Bruce how things are going at his camp, and he talks about how he's older than all of them, so it's hard to get stuff together, and it's not moving at the speed that he wants it to do, but the collision they have is pretty good. Brent talks about how tough of a time he's had on his tribe, but also how Emily has been the person causing problems, targeting Bruce immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Drew feels both of them are on opposite ends with Brandon, being very forthcoming and opening up, but Bruce playing things close to his chest and not giving him much of anything, and probably doesn't want to work with them, and it's bad gameplay from him. Yeah, I wonder if Bruce and Drew are gonna also like potentially like go against him. Like, what if Katurah stays in the game and like goes to Drew and be like, I'm so annoyed by Bruce, we gotta get him out. Like, oh, that could be so good. That would be so good. Oh my gosh. They each then pick a path. It seems like Drew recognizes, like, yeah, Bruce is dangerous. Oh, yeah, he is. He's definitely someone to look out for. Yeah. So they each pick a path. Brad talks about how Survivor is all about highs and lows, and as a super fan, he thought he would thrive out there. But after nearly passing away on the barge day one, he feels like he has performance anxiety. If he wants to succeed in this, he can't spend this whole time anxious, and the journey for him is just a chance to see if he can let go of all of it. Mm-hmm. I think it could be an absolute game changer for him. It's an opportunity to gain power as he's playing an individual game as much as he's gung-ho about the Lulu Tribe. He's got to stay here past the time and his expiration date. He's got to stay here past the time. His expiration date might be up. Yeah. So they each read a message that says they have a chance to earn an advantage, but only if they are willing to risk their vote. They are told in the bag there are several pairs of matching tiles with patterns in the front and numbers on the back. There are also 3 tiles that have no matching patterns, and they must first match all the pairs. They then use the numbers on the back of the 3 remaining tiles. To solve a combination lock, they will have 3 minutes to finish, and if they are successful, their advantage will be released, and if they fail and don't finish in time, they cannot vote at the next tribal council.
Yeah, so one major change immediately to the journey here is that they're not getting this after the fact. They know immediately what their fate is after the challenge if they play in the challenge. I like that change a lot. I haven't liked it where it's like, oh, you got to wait until you go back to tribal and then you'll get this like message afterwards. I like that they already know like what their fate is here. I think it's more interesting that way.
I think so too. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So Brandon deals with this being a challenge where he doesn't have to move or lift anything or swim and decides to play. He struggles to complete it and now has no vote when he gets back to camp, which he isn't happy about, especially when he didn't want the beware advantage for the same reason. But he feels good going into the next tribal council. This should his tribe attend, and knows that Emily will leave once they get there. But this is his low point.
Yeah, I think he should have just taken that beware advantage because now he has no vote. And I think if he would have taken the beware advantage, I think that this would have, Sabiyah would have felt more like close to him and things like that. I think that he would prove that he has something that's like valuable to the tribe, or like this was like his opportunity to like prove something, and he failed.
Yeah, he really just kind of like messed up there. Wasn't thinking too strategically.
Yeah. Well, I think he was hoping like it was a challenge like he could complete. Like he didn't realize how hard it would be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think that's to be said, like how different challenges are in like online games versus like actual like, live reality games and things like actual like reality, like live games and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a big like issue.
Definitely. So despite how badly he wants to play, Bruce decides to protect his vote as he's put too much work in to do so.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was the right move for him. He's not in a position where he needs anything. And I think that it makes sense for him to just kind of not play in this.
Exactly.
So, but what I did find very funny is that literally that's it. He just walks away, doesn't get a message or anything. He's just done. I like that he doesn't lose his vote or anything. Like, it's so much better that way.
That's so good.
Like, you only lose your vote if you play in the challenge. And you don't have to play in the challenge like other seasons. Like, you can refuse not to.
Yep.
So it just feels more, like, fair.
Yeah, definitely protect your vote because it's important, especially early on. So Drew feels he's in a great spot with a solid 4, and so his vote is pretty integral. But on the other hand, the risks are huge, so it may be important to get an advantage. He decides to play. He is successfully able to complete the challenge, so he wins a safety without power, which can be played up until final 10. He feels that he now has a get out of jail free card and has power in the game. And a guy like him is very ambitious. He has a survivor itch, and the only thing that's going to scratch it, and it's more power and ammunition. So when they return,
we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, he now has this safety without power. Yeah. I don't believe that's what they've been doing in like previous seasons. It's been something a little bit different than that, but I like that it's just a safety without power. I think that's it's a nice simple advantage. It's not too overpowered or anything like that. I think this is good.
Definitely. It's like literally you leave tribal and you don't vote. Like it's just super simple. But it's like safety.
Yeah.
And good for him.
Yeah, honestly, Drew's killing it.
Oh, yeah. But I don't think he needs to use it for a while.
No, I think he's going to be okay. Well, he has till final 10, so.
Yeah.
And that's merge. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
so
that's like the second round.
He'll probably use it at merge then.
Yeah, I assume so.
So when they return back, Brandon admits to his tribe what happened and that he has no vote. Sean is wondering where his strengths are, knowing he failed to complete the immunity challenge, and now this puzzle.
And I don't blame Sean. It's like, fuck. Or like, is there anything you can do well at this point? Yeah.
So Drew comes back and they are excited to see him and start rubbing his head, and he feels the right is to tell them all the truth, and he does exactly that, hoping he can use it on a Reba member that's in danger. So Austin feels he is really trying to play a loyal game and wants to play with someone like him. So he tells him he came into this game looking for a JT to his Steven, and he's just the guy who wants to go all the way with him. Which I'm here for that duo.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's them and then Dee and Julie.
Yeah.
So Austin then tells Drew he found a beware advantage and what it's spelled out. Drew feels he has the physicality and the looks and the charm he needs while he has the brains. Austin is by far his ride or die, and he is committed to the moon and back.
I feel like these four are just so strong. Like they're gonna run the game if they get like to the merge. Like I feel like that's probably what's gonna happen here. Like if these four get anywhere close to the end, they're gonna be like steamrolling.
I feel like D, like she's kind of a wild card. Like she's kind of a question mark of where she's going. But with her, I feel like she's the person who's gonna get like idled out.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like she'll be targeted first.
I think so too.
But we'll see. Just based on like her edit, because she's had like the least amount of the four.
Definitely.
So let's talk about the immunity challenge here. For today's challenge, one player at a time is going to climb to the top of the tall tower. They're going to leap off, smash a tile, release the key. They must navigate a floating balance beam and swim to the end. Then the next person does. Once they've retrieved all three keys, two other players would use those keys to unlock their puzzle pieces and solve a coral puzzle. The first two tribes successfully finish their puzzle will win immunity. I will say, I did love that Jeff said, like, this is a puzzle that we've never done before, kind of like shading Carson last season, since, you know, he masterminded all the puzzles and knew them in advance. Like, this is a good way to kind of get around that. So there's another thing that I feel like is a reference to, there's another thing I think that's a reference to 44 that we'll talk about in a little bit. Oh, I scrolled down too far. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So in addition, they're also playing for a reward, which is a massive set of fishing gear for the tribe who finishes first, and a mask, snorkel, fins, and a Halloween sling for the second. Or Hawaiian sling, not Halloween. What the fuck? What's a Halloween sling? A Hawaiian sling for the second tribe to finish. Boo! Jeff also announces that there is a new rule because it used to be that the sit-out would reset after Tribal Council. So now they cannot sit out back-to-back challenges. Whoever sits out of this challenge will run the next challenge. I feel like this is to prevent what happened with Claire last season, where it's like, you know, she kept sitting out and they didn't feel like she was valuable to the tribe. This is preventing that from happening, and I feel like that makes for a much more fluid tribe overall. So I like this change a lot. I honestly...
Also,
I feel like it should have been implemented a long time ago. I feel like it just makes a lot more sense. So, yeah. So Katurah sits out for Bello and Sifu sits out for Reba. And this is not a close race at all. It's like very clearly dominated by two tribes here. One ends up falling short completely. That, once again, is Lulu, who's going to be going to Tribal Council and still also do not have their flint. I believe Bello went first, and then it was Reba. They really killed it here. And Kaleb is just like, he's like, this tribe is horrible. They can't win anything. They're falling apart emotionally, physically, everything. So, yeah, Lulu is just continuing to just lose every opportunity presented to them.
They're just like flopping everything.
It wasn't even close. Like, literally, Jeff was like counting out Lulu now. Like, it wasn't, and I honestly don't blame him because Bello and Reba were so far ahead of them. And it was pretty crazy to see. I don't think we've seen a tribe like this in a very long time where like one is just so far behind of everyone else. And that's exactly what's happening here with Lulu. I honestly don't know if they're going to like be able to avoid tribal. I don't know.
Yeah, they're just not good at comps. Nope.
Yeah. I don't know.
So here we get to Lulu host immunity.
Yeah. And this was very interesting the way this played.
It was so good. It's so interesting. Brandon tells the rest of the tribe that they did phenomenal, but the leg that he got selected for and got confident in, he lost. And he knows he lost it for them, and he has no vote tonight and no power, and nobody wants the experience of losing twice in a dead fire pit. But he's telling them this is all he ever wanted to be out there. And he just wants them to know that he loves them all, and they agree.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really sad moment. I felt so bad for Brandon. Like, I can't imagine what it's like getting to live out your dream and this being the way that you end up doing it. I really felt for him here.
I know.
Yeah, honestly.
So Emily asks him if it's too bold to say that he knows it's between them, and he agrees. And it's one of the two of them, and it will come to a decision between them. Sean says Emily knows she's on the bottom, but Brandon's a liability in every single challenge, and they will never win, which is true. Like, at least that Emily's a little bit better at challenging, even if he's not.
We'll see. yeah, Brandon is just terrible with them, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sean talks to Sabiyah and Kaleb and says he doesn't think Brandon is serving the tribe. But he's loyal to them, and she asks how they feel about his shot in the dark. He doesn't have a vote, so he can't do it, but she doesn't want Emily to play it. And they have to look for this idol because what they don't know is she doesn't have a vote either.
Yeah.
Sabiyah says she's hoping Emily goes home, but she doesn't have a vote tonight, and tribal council is approaching, and that means her time is running out to find this idol.
Yeah, she's really determined to find it here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's like, I need this. They go back over to the same tree trying to get to the next level up in order to find the idol. But it's covered with ants, and Kaleb climbs up there to look but to no avail. They look to see what they're missing and eventually find a rope up there, and attached to it is a bottle that contains a message saying the idol is encased in wax and they must burn away the wax to take possession, which they are just made of, considering they don't even have fire and therefore can't burn any wax.
They're just getting unlucky. Like, not only are they just so bad at challenges, they don't have any fucking fire. So anything, and of course, the one thing they need fire in order to complete it. It's just, oh my god,
I feel so bad for them.
it's just wild.
Like, it's wild. They just like have no power or anything.
Yeah.
And they're losing their minds.
I wonder if next season they're just gonna do away with like the taking away of Flint, because like so this doesn't happen. Because I feel like they would not be where they are if they actually like were able to like have those supplies.
Exactly, they need it.
Yeah.
Emily talks to Brandon about how they've been gone for such a long time, and it must be hard to be in the Power Alliance having to make such tough decisions. And he laughs.
I thought that was funny.
That was funny. Sabiyah talks to Brandon about what she found, and Brandon asks if Sean and Kaleb will vote Emily, and she says that's what she was thinking, but she's worried about everything.
Yeah, I mean, Sabiyah, I like that she was very loyal to Brandon here, like recognized that like they have to work together, but she also doesn't have a vote, so she doesn't have much power.
Oh, she doesn't. Literally, the only three who have votes are Kaleb, Sean, and Emily.
Yeah, which are like the worst three for Brandon.
Oh, yeah. So Brandon says he hates this since with him and Sabiyah's votes being null and void, it is a three-person vote tonight, and he knows how good he is socially. He knows it will be him or Emily, but one of them will be here tomorrow, and they don't know who it's going to be. But whoever it is has got to fight, and Emily has made people angry.
Yep.
So he talks to Kaleb and Sean, saying he will be loyal in any situation. Where they have to split up, he's Lulu strong and is with them.
Yeah, and I like that he is coming from a perspective of like, I'm going to be better loyal. I'm going to be better like social wise to you. I'm going to be here, loyalty wise. I'm never going to turn on you or anything like that. I thought this was good for Brandon. Like, he's recognizing what he needs to do. The problem is the issue isn't about his social game. It's all about physical game. And, that clearly is very important to this tribe because that's why they keep getting sent here.
Oh, yeah, literally. So Emily goes to Sabiyah and Sean and says she wants to solidify trust by handing over her shot in the dark so they know she's not playing it.
This was a really good move, I feel like.
Really smart on her part. I'm actually giving
because how many people have gone out just because they played their shot in the dark? Like, look at Sydney from 41. She wouldn't have even gone out if she played her shot in the dark. So I feel like it's smart for her to be like, yeah, I'm not going to play this. You have nothing to worry about.
They have her trust, and this is getting the same page at Tribal Council, knowing they can trust each other and move forward as a team. Sabiyah says this means everything.
Yeah, so it kind of feels like maybe Sabiyah is like going to put this aside.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
So Emily says she's at the stage of desperation, and she's trying to buy herself enough time to permanently change her position instead of treading water like she is right now. She's just hoping the tribe truly wants to vote Brandon. But Brandon, and she hopes she can turn it around, and if she does, it's all on Kaleb.
Yeah.
So she talks to Kaleb and tells him she gave Sabiyah her shot in the dark just to show that she's not going to play it yet. And he says when they started this momentum of working together, it's been great so far. And he gives her a hug and says she's been doing awesome.
Yeah, and again, I think this bond is definitely going to take like Emily very far. I think the fact that Kaleb is working with her is definitely good.
Definitely. So Kaleb says she's playing it smart, thinking she's doing a great job, and she's been listening and having her as an asset. It is going to be a very valuable thing for him, and he hopes Sean and Sabiyah realize they can work with her to burn this game.
Yep.
And then Sabiyah says to Sean that Emily makes her feel like she will cut her throat deep into this night. And Sean says they can't win with Brandon. He loves him, but they can't. And she says Emily gave her her shot in the dark, and she has it. Hook, line, and sinker, and she can go home today.
And I would honestly give it to Sean for the reason why the vote turns out the way it does. I feel like if he was more willing to like listen to the fact that like Emily still said the things that she did, we can't really change them. Like maybe this could have been turned around, but I think because Sean is so, adamant about Brandon is the reason we keep losing. Brandon's got to go. Like that's why the vote turned out the way it did. Because obviously Kaleb wasn't going to vote Emily out, considering that now he's working with her. But I feel like Sean could have potentially been swayed, and that obviously didn't happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because he just thinks like try strongly for the comms, like Emily's better to keep.
Yeah.
So Sabiyah asks Emily if she really wants to play with them, and Emily says yes, and she hopes she can see that she brings a bit of vitality to this tribe in a way that Brandon doesn't.
Yeah, and she does.
True. She asks her and Kaleb if they vote with Brandon tonight. Do they win with Emily? Realistically, Kaleb says it's not a guarantee, but they'll definitely probably lose with Brandon, and it can go either way. And she says she doesn't trust Emily.
And I will say, Kaleb is doing a very good job of advocating for Emily here.
He is. Like, I think he's killing it.
Yeah.
We had high hopes for him. So Sabiyah says Emily has given her word and her shot in the dark, but she's a snake in the grass, and that's scary to keep around. She has friends like Brandon and can trust Brandon to the end. She doesn't have a vote, but in a way, she does Kaleb and Sean and have basically asked her who she wants, and she hasn't considered herself being in control of this tribe, but it's kind of been that way, and she likes it.
Yeah, this gave me major, like, possible winner vibes from her. Oh, yeah. I love this moment. I love that, like, how much she's eating up the fact that she is in control, even though she never, like, put herself in that position. She's kind of, like, gotten into that position just through, like, people asking her. Like, this is really good for Sabiyah, and I generally think she is making it very far.
Same.
So
I think she's gonna, like, she's definitely making it to, like, at least 4 or 5.
I think so, too. So let's get to the tribal council here. There's a lot to discuss with this one, but Jeff asked Sabiyah what happened last tribal and what was clearly a heated tribal that took a left turn with Hannah pleading to leave, and they let her, and she says that she thought all that he would get resolved with a snuff. Jeff asked if it meant that Emily was going home, and Sabiyah says it either meant it was here for it, it was a snuff to kind of shut her up a little bit. So he asked Brandon how he reads into it, knowing someone was going home. And Brandon says he knew that him and Emily were at the bottom, and he went in not wanting it to be him. So he was going to do what he thought most people were going to do. So he was going to go ahead and vote Emily. So Jeff then asked Sean about the tribe dynamics, and he says, coming back from the challenge today, both Emily and Brandon made it be the 3 of them controlling the vote. And that's true. I mean, they basically said, like, hey, it's on you guys at this point. So Jeff asked if they're all in agreement that it's Emily and Brandon tonight, and they all agree on that. So Jeff then asked Brandon to make a pitch for what quality he brings to the tribe. And Brandon gets very emotional here, says this is something he's not used to. This is the first time he doesn't play sports. He's not used to losing because he's not used to playing, and he came back from the challenge very defeated. This is the second puzzle he did not do, and the puzzle at the journey, he lost that one too. So maybe puzzles aren't his thing, and Sabiyah chimes in and says that he told them that he was good at it, which he did. He said, I'm good at puzzles, I'm not good at other stuff, and she needs him to figure out what he can do, and it can be true because he's not really proving like he's valuable to the tribe in any way. So he says he maintains the puzzles that he does were just bad days, but he's loyal to them, and Emily has had issues with them, and he is Lulu strong. So Kaleb says that Brand's ability to be vulnerable, to bring people in, to tell a story is really valuable. And Emily was trying to play all 26 Days Survivor in the first week, but an open mind looks like taking a chance with Emily rather than knowing they would already have that with Brandon. And Sean says that to Emily's credit, after the last tribal council, they've given Emily feedback and she's taken it to heart and shown some real effort to be the sweet Emily they know she is. And I feel like after Sean said this, it was basically done for Brandon. Brandon, like we pretty much knew what was going to happen, unfortunately.
Definitely.
So,
but these are both very good pitches.
Yeah. He makes a last-ditch effort to say that there will be a challenge that he knows he can do well in physically, and he knows he's gotten unlucky. And Jeff makes this really good analogy, saying, like, you know, he was a kid, he tried for a basketball team and failed, but he was the water boy, and that's maybe what Brandon could be. Brandon says he will happily take on that role, and he asks Emily what case she could make in terms of she can do better. She says it's more about learning from her mistakes, and a lot of that is learning to tone down the more harsh qualities for people she's living with 24/7 and rebuilding trust. And one of the things that she did to rebuild it was give Sabiyah her shot in the dark tonight, and her saying that she'll give it back to her after tribal, which could mean she's not coming back to tribal, so it doesn't really matter, or that Sabiyah is saying that she trusts her. So Jeff asks her what it's all been about, if this is it, and she says it hasn't gone the way that she expected, but she's learned a lot about herself, made friends for life. She never thought that she'd say that with strangers, and she was told coming into this that she can be a bit aggressive, but all of those things in her everyday life are very muted. She lives a very normal life and has friends, and coming into this scenario and seeing all these things on hyperdrive and rewatching them on TV will be a somewhat traumatic experience. And again, I like that she acknowledges that. Like, she acknowledges, I've said and done a lot of wrong things. It's very good that she was able to do that. And Brandon gives this very heartfelt pitch, talking about how his journey started in 2008. His 6th grade teacher mentioned Survivor. He didn't think she liked him, so he watched it because he's a kiss ass and wanted her to like him. And every day since that night, he's just wanted to be here and pictured himself here. But this is everything he's not. He doesn't like the outside or the beach. You and me both on that. And these challenges are so out of his realm. And if this is it, he hopes he's learned why he need to come here, and he thinks that it's not for this game, it's outside of it. He's so anxious and is wildly so throughout his whole 5 days here, has been ruled by his anxiety, but these guys with these buffs, it's incredible, and it's been the most 5 days he's ever had. This is what he's weighed to do, and if this is how it will end, he'll wait 44 more years to Survivor 45 with them again, no doubt. I mean, just what an amazing pitch all around.
So
you really can't expect anything more.
I think it's just a very emotional and heartfelt tribal.
Yeah, it really was. So after 2 very compelling pitches from the both of them, it ends up being a vote for, and it was really, we were unsure what was going to happen here. Are they going to vote for tribe strength or loyalty? Ultimately, they voted for tribe strength, with Brandon being the next person voted out by a vote of 3-0. And this is heartbreaking. I think, obviously, we know Brandon. We've played games with him before and things like that. We know how badly he wanted this, and it's really sad to see him not get to finish it out. But I really like
episode 2.
Yeah, and I mean, he had probably one of the roughest 2 episodes I've seen. Every opportunity he had to prove himself, he failed in doing so. And it's not all his fault. Some of it is, but a lot of it you can chalk up to just anxiety and things like that. I don't think he necessarily did anything super wrong. I think the only thing he did wrong was in episode 1, saying he plays shot in the dark and saying things like that. I don't think that's something you should do, because normally when someone says they're playing the shot in the dark, they end up leaving and they get votes on them because of it. But I think aside from that, he did all he really could have done here. And I think he should be proud of himself. And I really just respect the attitude that he has, where in his retrospective, he says that he may have lost Survivor, but he did it. He didn't give up. He made it all the way here, and he would have liked to have stayed longer and won something that would have been ideal. But otherwise, he got to authentically live his childhood dream, and he doesn't think many can say that. He recommends for everyone to come do this and hopefully do better than him by a little bit, but otherwise will have the most incredible time of their lives. I feel like that's the best attitude to have. I watched an interview with him where someone asked, are you disappointed by how you played? And he said placement isn't important to him. What's important is that he got people to watch the show and are still
never defines you.
Well, that's not really what. Well, yes, obviously, but he's talking more about from the fact that he got people to watch the show, and people that didn't watch the show are now loving it, and they're going to continue to watch it. And I feel like that's just, that's such a refreshing attitude to have. People usually come out of these very upset at how they did, but he's not really as upset about that. He's not beating himself up over it. I mean, he did say that, yes, it was rough, but at least now that it's aired, he doesn't have to hold it in anymore. He doesn't have, it's kind of like a sigh of relief. And I think that's a good attitude to have. Yes, this wasn't everything that he hoped for in terms of how he did, but he still got to play. he got people to watch the show. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, because there are people that go on to Survivor hoping to go on and don't go on. And the fact that Brandon did get to go on, I do think he should be proud of that. And I respect the attitude that he had. And it sucks that, he went early, but I really do.
But he's still like such an inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
And he like really stuff about himself.
Yeah, he did.
And like, he really was just there to like inspire people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
it was very emotional, his boot.
Yeah, he definitely did that very well here. I think my question to you is, do you think Lulu is going to be better off without him now? Or do you think they made the wrong decision?
I feel just because he's gone, like, I think they couldn't go back to Tribal.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know, because we see in the promo for the next episode, they're thinking about targeting Kaleb now, and I feel like
it makes sense because like I thought he was going to do very well, but I guess it makes sense because he was so adamant to like protect Emily that round.
Yeah, I feel like Sabiyah trusted him more, and now she's like kind of wants him out. So. Yeah,
is he going to choose me over Emily?
I feel like
over
I feel like right now I would. So this is what I think personally. I don't think it would be Kaleb. I think if it's not Emily, it's Sean, because Sean just has not had as much.
Yeah.
We don't know like really where he stands. We know that he's kind of positioned in the middle, but Sabiyah is absolutely the safest. It seems like she's not really going much of anywhere. So I think it's going to be Sean or Emily next if Lulu does go back to Tribal.
But I could see things.
If it's Lulu, Yeah, if it's Reba, I think probably Sifu.
Sifu probably.
Yeah. Bello, probably Jake. Yeah. So I feel like we have a pretty good idea of where everyone stands. And that's what I like about the season so far. Yeah. There's not one tribe that I can point to and say we're not getting enough from them. We don't really know enough about them. Like, I feel like in 2 episodes in, I already know a lot about all of these players. And that's just so refreshing to say, because look back at other seasons, especially 43. We didn't know jack shit about half of them until Merge. So it's like, this is much closer to what I want to see in Survivor. And if they keep this up, I mean, this is going to be a top tier season for me. So I'm really loving the way this is playing out. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, for sure. Yeah, I'm very excited to see how the rest of this does play out. And I think that's all we really want to say. Is there anything else you want to get into regarding Survivor?
Pretty much covered everything.
Okay.
We're going to try and this week's episode live.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But is there things to plug? Oh, yep, there it is.
Excited for watching those.
Yes.
Obviously, we're team Kevin, Kuzi, and Ariana.
Yes.
And then obviously just our ongoing coverage of Big Brother.
Yes.
Excited to cover this week's episode, or this week's episode.
And the Cameron eviction party. Let's go. So good. So good.
And season reviews, whenever those.
Yeah, like we said in the last video, probably not covering BBUK. Too many fucking episodes.
Yeah, like that one.
Yeah.
Season review. But
yeah,
we'll see.
House of Villains, maybe. We'll see how that goes. Other stuff we'll definitely keep you updated on. But other than that, that's it for this video. As always, comment down below. Let us know what you guys are thinking of the season of Survivor. Love to hear your thoughts in it. I almost did the run outro, as I usually do sometimes. But remember, couples who podcast together stay together. We will see you guys later.
Love you guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.